Richard here has given us a short summary of the history of colonialism in Palestine and how it came to happen thanks to the hands of British colonial powers. And in 1948, that's when Israel came to existence. That's when my grandparents and the grandparents of so many Palestinians standing between us have had to flee their homes under Zionist fire. That's how my grandparents ended up being in Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, the world's largest open-air prison. I stand here before you as a survivor of multiple Israeli waves of mass destruction and mass killings. And I stand before you not as a submissive victim, but as a change maker. And I don't think that Palestinians should be handling this fight for justice on their own, because the whole world is complicit in this ongoing injustice. And we are standing now at the University of Sheffield, which has ties with notorious companies that profit from Israeli crimes against the Palestinian peoples. This normalizes oppression, and we want to denormalize it. That's why we are standing here. We're standing here to denormalize the ongoing oppression, the ongoing Nakba, the ongoing man-made catastrophe that was inflicted on the Palestinians, funded by the international community, supported by the likes of University of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam University. So, let's shout for Palestine. Let's shout for human rights. Let's shout for environment, because all these companies are all complicit in human lives, in the murder of human lives, in the destruction of environment. And we all have a reason to stand here and join the Palestinians as they march towards bullets along the fence with Israel. They have been marching since the 30th of March 2018. We are approaching now the first anniversary of an ongoing Great Return March. Tens of thousands of Palestinian people have been marching every Friday towards bullets, facing Israeli snipers hiding behind sand mountains, shooting at them unjustifiably, without posing any threat whatsoever. Just recently, the United Nations inquiry issued a report, an investigative report, into over 200 killings that happened at the ground of the Great Return March. And the report clearly points to Israeli war crimes being committed, to crimes against humanity. This cannot keep going in our name. Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine!
I am a student in the University of Sheffield of Engineering. I lived all of my life in Jordan, just beside the Palestinian society. As a Palestinian myself, I never had the chance to see my own land and my own. I never had to see my own land or my own people from my native country. I see my grandparents suffering every year to go back to their homes, to their own lands. Every time they go there, they have to go through a lot, and I mean it, they have to go through a lot of paperwork, different issues that they have to make sure that they don't have anything on them, or they can't do anything while they're there. They can't bring any products to their own homes. They can barely see their families. A lot of them, most of my cousins and relatives from Palestine, from Jerusalem, and different areas from like Rafah and Jaffa and Haifa, right? I can't see them. I cannot have any kind of interaction between me and them. Every year I had to see them dying one by one, suffering for studying, suffering through life. The corruption that is happening in the country is enormous, because nobody is looking into the actual laws that are happening in the Palestinian communities and government. This is a really huge issue because the Israeli government is looking over everything. They're not allowing anybody to control anything of their own. And all of the companies that we are trying to support here in the University of Sheffield, despite us engineering or not, they are with these people. They are trying to enforce these laws over the Palestinian people, and they're enforcing the government of Israel to make their own laws over all of the people right over there. As Shahid said before, there is a lot of LGBT and women oppressionists there. They do really hate all kinds of different people, races, languages, and they cannot accept any kind of educational development there. One of my friends at a school in Jerusalem, he actually suffers from a thing that they cannot do any kind of practical practice for any kind of scientific method that they study in the school, because if they study and understand what's happening around them, they would be able to change the lives of others. And this is what a lot of people don't want that in our current generation. So yeah, again, we always want to say free Palestine from all of these horrible people. Thank you very much.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
when we say free Palestine from the river to the sea, we mean because Israeli crimes happen across Palestine from the river to the sea. Israeli crimes are continuing as we stand here. Just yesterday, a man was assassinated in Salfit, a young man in his early 20s, Omar Abu Layla. His name is Omar Abu Layla. British media barely finds any crime happening against the Palestinians reportable. Unfortunately, we have media that doesn't speak truth to power. We have media that reinforces power, that takes the side of the colonial powers, that disseminates the Israeli narrative at the expense of silencing the Palestinian people. The Palestinians have been dying, have been killed, imprisoned, maimed, rounded up in enclaves, shrinking enclaves. I come from one of these enclaves, the Gaza Strip, the world's largest open-air prison, even in the words of a right-wing Prime Minister or ex-Prime Minister David Cameron. He said it about the Gaza Strip being the world's largest open-air prison. What do we do about it? We arm Israel. And instead of bringing Israel to accountability, after over 7 decades of ongoing crimes on the Palestinians, we arm Israel. We fuel more injustices against Palestinians. This is why we're standing here. We demand our universities to cut ties with all these unethical companies that are profiting from Israeli crimes against the Palestinians. We are all complicit as long as our universities maintain those ties. Let's shout together those notorious companies complicit in the oppression of the Palestinian people. Let's say their names and then say together, boycott Caterpillar, for example. So I'll say, for example, Volvo, and you say, boycott Volvo. Agreed? Are we all in agreement here? So, Volvo. Rolls-Royce. BAE Systems. Caterpillar. Airbus. Hewlett Packard. HP. Boycott HP. Siemens. Boeing. Shall I tell you a little bit? Or actually, I need a rest to my voice. Can anybody come and say this?
Control and dominate the global south through reparations, through apartheid, and through disenfranchisement. We need to break down this system that keeps our Palestinians brothers and sisters, our Yemeni brothers and sisters, our Afghani brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters all over the world who are put down by this system. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
I'm also having a debate on decolonisation if anyone's interested to see how the university needs to stop its complicity in divesting the university and also decolonising our curriculum and actually learning about something other than the Western perspective. Free, free Palestine!
Asia, thank you, Asia, for these passionate words. Definitely. Colonialism isn't something that belongs to the past. It is continuing, it is ongoing in so many different forms. And Palestine is just one example.
Systems is not simply just an aerospace organization. Whilst they do supply weapons that shell countries across the Middle East and supply Saudi Arabia in its warfare, they are also supplying Israel and helping them shell the Gaza Strip and continue in the slaughter of all the Palestinian people currently living, as Chad has said, in an open-air prison. Furthermore, BAE Systems also works in reconnaissance and intelligence, and by doing so, they have supplied many countries with technology that helps in the authoritarian policing of the human right to speak and to organize, and this is occurring across the Middle East, and especially in Palestine, where not only are Palestinians being oppressed and monitored and policed on the internet, and their ability to organize has been completely destroyed, but also they aid in providing the technology to stop their movements throughout Palestine, and especially in the checkpoints across Gaza and Palestine. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Her name is Shahid, by the way. We have two Shahids, two troublemakers. And I know from talking to so many Palestinian students that knowing that our universities are linked to those unethical companies makes us feel alienated. It makes us feel that we are part of an institution killing our own people. And this cannot continue. We have good news in Sheffield Hallam actually. Just early January, we passed a BDS motion in the student union. BDS stands for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, which is a call made by the Palestinian civil society upon the international community to join in solidarity by imposing measures of boycott, divestment and sanction against Israeli apartheid. International pressures and boycott, divestment and sanctions measures have worked during the fight against South Africa apartheid. International community played a central role back then in the fall of South African apartheid. And we believe it can work too, and it can bring Israeli apartheid to an end. Sheffield Hallam University claims pride in moving away from fossil fuel industries in a 2016 press release. Fossil fuel industries contribute to the global warming, and that's why there has been global mobilizations calling for fossil fuel industries to stop basically harming our environment. But the arms industries contribute heavily, not only to environmental damage, but also to the destruction of properties, to the destruction of lives. If Hallam is sincere about being environmentally friendly, why not cut their ties with the arms industry too? We have so many reasons to be angry over Palestine. The oppression of Palestinians under the Israeli colonial occupation and apartheid has gone for over 70 years. And our university is complicit in normalizing this oppression. So, I'm just going to talk a bit on Sheffield Hallam's context. In its business profile, Sheffield Hallam University offers access to its expertise in several fields. Under engineering and manufacturing, all of you can look this up. The university boasts about being leaders in the field when it comes to translating their expertise into clear, measurable outcomes. A quality that draws several companies to collaborate with Sheffield Hallam University. Here, we learn of the notorious companies that Sheffield Hallam University is affiliated with, and it calls industry partners. And those industry partners include BAE Systems, HP, Rolls-Royce, and Volvo Trucks. In addition, in multiple engineering courses, the university offers placements at Caterpillar, the world's leading manufacturer of construction and mining equipment, diesel and natural gas engines, and industrial gas turbines. Sheffield Hallam turns a blind eye to any ethical framework when it comes to having those ties with BAE Systems, HP, Rolls-Royce, Volvo Trucks, and Caterpillar. That's why a boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign is necessary. As the other Shahid said, BAE Systems is one of the main arms suppliers to Israel. It provides the targeting displays in F-16 fighter jets. Israel used this extensively in attacks on Gaza in 2014, killing over 1,400 Palestinian civilians. A third of them were children. It is also central to British arms sales to Saudi Arabia, supplying the regime with the Tornado fighter jets, which are used to indiscriminately bomb civilians in Yemen, flattening schools and hospitals and destroying families. BAE also supplies hundreds of millions of pounds worth of military equipment, including fighter jets, to the Turkish state, whose recent assault on Afrin in northern Syria saw the indiscriminate shelling and bombing of Kurdish civilians, killing more than 500 and displacing thousands. This followed the brutal massacre by Turkish government forces in 2016 of hundreds of civilians, enforced disappearances, torture, and the displacement of up to 500,000 people. This destruction was significantly enabled by military equipment and technology obtained through recent contracts with BAE. Boycott BAE! Boycott BAE! Free, free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
The next institutional target is HP. HP provides and operates much of the technology infrastructure that Israel uses to maintain its system of apartheid and settler colonialism over the Palestinian people. HP Enterprise is the prime contractor of the Basel system, an automated biometric access control employed at Israel's checkpoints and apartheid wall. The ID cards distributed as part of the system form the basis of Israel's systematic discrimination against the Palestinian people. HP technology helps the Israeli Navy enforce its siege on Gaza, which so many human rights organizations have condemned. And the UN have called in multiple reports that it's brutal and inhumane. In November 2015, HP split into two firms. HP Inc. for consumer hardware, PCs and printers, and Hewlett Packard for business and government services. Both remain deeply complicit in Israeli apartheid. Boycott HP! Boycott HP! Next target is Rolls-Royce. In March 2016, Rolls-Royce signed an agreement dubbed as the biggest ever export deal to Israel, as both the supplier and the maintenance provider of new engines for AL Israeli aircrafts. Boycott Rolls-Royce! Boycott Rolls-Royce! Volvo Trucks is the next target. Volvo bulldozers have been photographed and videotaped destroying Palestinian homes. They have been used in Israel's construction of so-called separation wall that enforces an apartheid system and is built on Palestinian land. It has been declared illegal by the International Court of Justice. Volvo as well has been complicit in the recent destructions and the gradual destructions of Sosia and Khan al-Ahmar. Boycott Volvo! Boycott Volvo! Caterpillar D9 military bulldozers were used in 1967 military occupation of Gaza and West Bank, in the brutal invasion of Lebanon in 1982, which left thousands of people killed, in the Jenin massacre of 2002, in the flattening of over 1,000 houses in Rafah in 2003 and 2004, in the murder of 23-year-old American activist Rachel Corrie, who was crushed to death on 16 March 2003 while attempting to prevent a house demolition in Rafah. Caterpillar was involved in the gradual destruction of Khan al-Ahmar village. The Palestinians of Khan al-Ahmar are now facing erasure. They're facing continuing ethnic cleansing. 200 people live in this village, and they have been holding to their grounds, obstructing bulldozers that are threatening their homes and properties in the village. They have been doing so for months. And they are only asking us to stand in solidarity, because transnational solidarity is the most powerful response to transnational violence that is shared by imperial powers all over the world, including the UK. And we are standing here as a beautiful example, seriously beautiful example of so many people from multi-ethnic backgrounds, multi-races, brilliant demonstration of solidarity across struggles. Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
So we have Paul here, Paul Kiliman, a sociologist at the University of Manchester. We're so happy to have him here. And he's also a brilliant activist, don't protest brilliant, at BSc Sheffield.
I was a student at this university in the late 60s, and a similar number of us, as we are here today, were protesting against this university's investment in South African apartheid. Today, hardly anybody owns up to their complicity in South African apartheid. In fact, you must question why there was an anti-apartheid movement necessary at all, since everybody seemed to be on our side. At least that's how it seems now. But at the time, universities, banks, companies, and of course the British government were actively supporting the apartheid regime. And today they're doing the same with Israel. And the reality on the ground is also similar. Because what we have is a gradual and deepening racist discrimination in Israel and in the occupied territories. In the late 60s, during our campaign on anti-apartheid, Israel expanded its occupation. In 48, as Dick had mentioned earlier, It expelled people, 2/3 of the Palestinian population, from what is now Israel. In 1967, while I was a student here, it expanded into the remaining historic Palestine. And still today, despite a number of international law, resolutions of the United Nations, Israel continues to occupy and continue its policy of ethnic cleansing. So I think we should take heart that there are people today here who are protesting, and we should especially take courage from the fact that today there are more international students in this country than in the past, more students to learn from about the role of British imperialism in the Third World. We have more Palestinian students here again who have direct experience, whose families are still suffering from what is occurring under the Israeli occupation, because so little of it is reported in the mainstream media. So let's go forward and continue our struggle, spread the message. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
So I think we're call it for an end. Thank you so much for coming. I was hoping to ideally march from the University of Sheffield to Sheffield Hallam University. So we all demand as collective force of students that our universities cut ties, because actually we are stronger when we are united. And I thought the best response to our university's collusion in human rights violations is that we unite and ask collectively in one voice that our universities cut ties. But unfortunately, we don't have many of you. I'm really happy to march, but I don't know about you guys. So would you like to raise hands if you're happy to march to Sheffield Hallam or not? It's a nice weather. It is brilliant weather. So, and it's downhill. That's another added point, yeah. So, shall we vote? No? It's okay, I wouldn't hold it against you. Okay then. Well, I guess we'll call it for now, but thank you so much for coming, and let's please continue the fight for justice, continue the fight for freedom for Palestine. We actually have a meeting at 4 p.m. at Sheffield Hallam University. Please join if you are interested in taking concrete actions. We don't want every time we hold these solidarity protests, things tend to just fade out, and people somehow just, you don't manage to organize them, you don't manage to unite them to reach the ultimate target. So that's why we have organized this meeting, so we all join our efforts and think together in how we build a movement that would definitely reach our ultimate goal, which is our university ending its complicity. And this is a unified campaign across Sheffield Hallam and University of Sheffield. And we have brilliant activists, truly brilliant activists at University of Sheffield, whom Sorcha is one of them. I can't say every single name of you, but we will be there at the meeting, and we will outline all these links and then think together of how to build a movement, build concrete actions to reach our target. Come, it's at 4 p.m. in Cantor Building. Thank you so much for coming, and free, free! Free, free!